Hello and welcome back. Today, I would like to talk to you about the life and story of June and Jennifer Gibbons. Gloria and Aubrey Gibbons were Caribbean immigrants. They were from Barbados and moved to England in 1960. In the spring of 1963, they welcomed the birth of their twin daughters, June and Jennifer Gibbons. Their parents were ecstatic and overly blessed with identical twins. Both June and Jennifer were late speakers, and when they did speak, it was obvious that they had a speech impediment. The girls, however, they understood each other perfectly fine. In fact, they made their own language. Their own mother often had to guess what the girls were saying when they spoke. When the twins' mother would ask a question, no matter which twin she was speaking to, that twin would always make eye contact with the other twin. Most people thought that this was just part of being a twin. But having to repeat themselves more than anyone else frustrated the twins. This is what made the twins shut down and go completely silent. In 1974, the family settled in Wales. The twins were 11 years old at the time and attended secondary school. They were both conscientious and well behaved, however, they went silent. This immediately concerned the teachers and totally frustrated the other kids. They started to taunt the girls and bully them so bad that they were let out of school 5 minutes early every single day. Now, June and Jennifer, they knew that they were different. Not only were they twins, they were a different color than the rest of the other kids. So not speaking was extra strange. The other kids thought the twins didn't even speak English. The more people asked the girls to speak, the more they went silent. In 1976, there was a vaccination session against TB. At this time, there were no black people in the area that the doctor knew of. He said he would have a row of little white arms and then a black one. This was different. They hadn't seen this before. This doctor also tried to get June and Jennifer to communicate with him, but he said it was a waste of time. The other kids are still taunting the girls and calling them chocolate drops, and that upset June and Jennifer. They did not like to be called chocolate drops. June and Jennifer were expressionless. You would speak to them and they wouldn't make eye contact with you or even acknowledge you. They walked one behind the other, heads down as if they were in a chain gang, the doctor said. He had never seen anything like this before. A child psychiatrist diagnosed the girls as elective mutes. The school could not deal with the girls, so at 14, they were transferred to the Eastgate Center for Special Education. Their new teacher tried to prepare for June and Jennifer's arrival. Dumb, very negative in school, secretive. This is what the new teacher was verbally told. nothing about the twins' academics. They described it as African click language. Now, this video was secretly recorded through a two-way mirror at the girls' school to chart their progress. The teacher was able to see that the girls spoke to each other when no one else was around. So she hid a microphone in the room to record the conversations. At first, she couldn't understand the girls. But after slowing down the tapes, she found out that they in fact were speaking English and that they also had very different personalities. June and Jennifer thought that when they became teenagers, they would have individual lives. June and Jennifer also had a younger sister. Her name was Rosie. They all shared a room together. June and Jennifer spoke to her, only on occasion though. They played dolls together and they also played dress up. When June and Jennifer were 11 years old, they kicked Rosie out the room and stopped speaking to their parents. June and Jennifer ate in their bedroom because they did not like chewing in front of other people. At school, they sat next to each other and ate in unison. This baffled the other kids, so they started to ignore the twins. June and Jennifer would start lunch with everyone else, but the speed in which they ate and the amount of food they put on the fork, the other kids were able to go back for seconds and were done before June and Jennifer could finish the first serving. Both June and Jennifer wanted their own lives, but they felt stuck. They wrote and fascinated about being separated. They felt they could walk, talk, and eat normally if they were separated. June even went so far as to suggest that one go and one stay here because they acted, and I quote, stupid together. Jennifer had the same feelings, so the school tried to decide which one would move. They could not decide, so they told the girls to decide. That pissed June and Jennifer off. This started a battle between the two about who would leave. Now, after all this time of being silent, there they were, screaming at each other at the top of their lungs. Now, you know this shocked everybody around who witnessed it. June was the twin that everyone thought could make it on her own. However, she stopped eating, moving, and dressing herself. She would just sit on her bed and cry. Some people were saying that their behavior was a game. June expressed extreme distress that led to the breakdown of the separation. The thought was, when they turn 16 or 17, they will be picked up and diagnosed with schizophrenia. Both June and Jennifer, they also wondered what would happen to them. They left Eastgate at the age of 16 and stopped going to school altogether. They isolated themselves for 2 years and had pen pals all over the world. June and Jennifer signed up for a course called The Art of Conversation. They paid for it. They went, but it didn't work. Their next plan was to become writers. They stayed up all day and night. They wanted their families to really be proud of them. In 1981, they turned 18 and they left the comfort zone of their bedroom and went out into the world. Two American boys noticed the twins. Now, these boys had already committed arson and theft, and at the time, they were also involved with the feds. Both the twins were impressed with the boys, so they started popping up, all dressed up with makeup on, hats on, etc. They thought the boys loved them, so they got involved with sex, drugs, and alcohol. The twins noticed that it was easier to express themselves while they were intoxicated. They often stumbled home drunk and laughing. They recorded each evening in their diary. Both girls were fighting for attention, and it turned violent. Jennifer admitted to trying to kill her sister by strangling her with a wire from the radio. She said she felt that her sister wanted to kill her too. June pushed Jennifer into the river and contemplated killing her because she wanted to be free. Jennifer was able to break loose, and they stood there cursing at each other and bringing up things from the past. After that, they both felt like it was the best summer they had ever had. Not long after that, they discovered the nightlife, hanging out and looking for trouble. In 1981, June wrote she fascinated of burning down his store. She and her sister did just that, and they said that it was the greatest day of their lives. They said that they were going to burn down the whole damn town. They would watch as the firefighters tried to contain the fires. A picture that would remain in their minds forever. June and Jennifer were eventually caught. They even made the papers, and they were placed under arrest. Both of the girls' diaries were used as evidence. They were both sent to a center in Bristol. They stayed there 7 months awaiting trial. The girls once again went silent. The twins could not stand to be with each other. However, they could not stand to be apart, so they shared a cell. Again, they baffled the staff with their behavior. They were diagnosed with schizophrenia. Now, the doctors, they were trying to keep the girls out of prison. There was no treatment there. June and Jennifer both pled guilty to the crimes and happily went to Broadmoor Hospital indefinitely. When the parents heard that, they understood what was happening. They said goodbye to their girls, both June and Jennifer. Now the girls were traumatized. They were 19 at this time. They didn't like the new facility because it had too many people. The girls were kept on separate wards, and after 2 years, they still weren't speaking. They were given tranquilizers and other drugs, and then they started to speak. In 1985, there was a meeting about putting the girls on the same ward. The answer was no. June and Jennifer were hoping to be released on April Fool's Day. While they waited, they were able to visit each other and write back and forth. Jennifer said that she would die long before June. They were talking now, but couldn't understand why they didn't feel released. They had court hearings every year, but they kept getting denied. In 1993, 1 month before their 30th birthday, they were finally able to be transferred. The day before they left, Jennifer felt unwilled. She said she was tired and laid her head on her sister's shoulder. At 8 p.m. that night, Jennifer died of inflammation of the heart muscle, a rare disorder that is seldom fatal. June was allowed to see her sister Jennifer for 1/2 hour. Jennifer's hat and earrings were on the table. June picked them up and put them in her pocket. June was devastated when she knew her sister was dead. On March 9th, 1993, June wrote in her diary about the passing of her sister. She said she was hysterical with grief. After a year, June did feel a sense of freedom. On March 18, 1994, she was also free of incarceration. She was released on parole. After 13 years inside of a secured hospital, June is now free. The parents say they have reoccurring images of her sister Jennifer. June feels like now she's living for she and her sister. She said it's a big responsibility, but it makes her stronger. Her sister's death made her 10 times stronger. Day by day, June says that she is improving and says she was born with a twin and she will die with a twin. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.